March 13th, Wednesday, and market analysis, Stan Ehrlich. We start out with stock market indexes always. Typically, the E-mini or the spider, essentially the same thing. The E-mini has only 1 hour of closing every day. The spider has many more hours of close. So gaps are different. Chart formations are almost always the same. Sometimes signals are a little different on the spider than the E-mini, but they are, of course, father and son, so to speak, and the micro E-mini would be what? The grandchild? Whatever. So we're very close to previous highs. We are approximately unchanged, maybe a little bit lower, but nothing significant. And very, very much a sideways, so far, boring day, which makes me believe the market is waiting for some sort of probably economic number coming out today or the next couple of days, and we'll see what happens next. Now, you guys know I have been waiting for a downside correction in these indexes for too long. It's been a couple, 3, 4, maybe weeks. The price levels at which I'm still expecting a downside correction at first would easily be into the spider 502 to 496 range, around 500. But there are 2 or 3 other important support areas that are a little bit lower that I think are highly more likely to be reached in the next few weeks, maybe 1 to 2 months at the most. And then new highs for all the indexes. I'm still very bullish on an intermediate to long-term basis. I'm still looking for a short-term, again, maybe a few weeks downside correction. Maybe as low as, for the spider, 478 to 465. Remember, we're now at 516, so that would be a pretty decent correction, 30, 40 points. I think it's still possible. Doesn't look like it's happening yet or starting, but I've had a couple of false starts and signals. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I still think that the odds are pretty good. Next chart is the 1-minute chart for the spider. Very much so, going sideways today, no higher than yesterday's high, very small range. We're waiting. E-mini, same thing, very close to the highest highs, only made in the last few days. We're waiting. Today's range is extremely unusually small so far. The 1-minute chart, and this is a 15-minute chart on the E-mini, shows that today we were just barely able to make it above yesterday's high by a tick or two. It didn't go anywhere so far. No downside movement of any significance, and we are still close to the high right now, up just a little bit, 3 points. And you can reach me at ersignals.com. That would be, info@ersignals.com. Our website, ersignals.com, is not quite finished. We probably have about another month. Then there'll be lots of stuff on it. Next chart, QQQ. Same thing. All the indexes, I'm looking for a correction. It's not giving me much satisfaction. It's starting and then stopping and going into new highs again and again. That's been about 3 times now since, I suppose, late January, a little over a month. Frustrating. So it marches its way up periodically to new highs. It could happen again. This type of activity usually ends up with some kind of a sharp break, which I'm still looking for. Next chart's the QQQ 1-minute, or this is the 5-minute. And I'm looking at a couple of months of data here. You can see it goes up and it has a correction. It goes up to a new high and has that as a correction. It goes up to new highs. We haven't had the correction on that yet. But the point is, when we do, will it stay down and keep going down and make lower lows for a longer period of time? That's what I'm looking for, but I'm not really bearish. This is a larger and larger correction in a longer term bull market. Next chart. This is the NASDAQ daily data. And as you can see, it's not quite as close to the recent highest highs, but not too far away. But it's not going down either. We've got about a week and a half here of mostly sideways. Well, what about the 5-minute or 30-minute, in this case, a 30-minute chart on the NASDAQ June futures? Sideways, marching its way periodically to new highs. Very strong bull market, but that does not mean it's not going to have a correction. Even bull markets have corrections. Okay, the Russell. Same story here, actually, on a relatively short-term basis, the last few months. And the Russell 1 minute looks like a top could be building, but again, that's a little premature to say, but I see something maybe. Okay, let's go to bonds. It came up close to resistance and got overbought. And like I have been saying for a couple of days, I expected a correction, and it's having a correction. Today is a new low for the last 5 days since it got overbought. Just exactly what I wanted. Now I still think it's coming down to about 118.31, which is really 119, and maybe down to about 1720-ish. But like indexes, I'm not really bearish. I'm looking for a further correction. It seems to have started as I was expecting. And then new high ground longer term for the bond market, period. That's my expectation. 10-year notes, it's the same story, coming down to support. Today, minor new lows for a few days. Good, behaving exactly like I wanted it to. Next, crude oil. Well, we're up against resistance area. This longer term chart is showing you at least 2 or 3 years. Looks like 2.5, something like that. Long-term bear market had a big bull move, lasted, say, half a year, topped out last September, did not quite make new lows. Now we're in a rally, but it's up against significant resistance, and it apparently is stopping, but we're up today, back into this little red zone slightly, but I think it's stopping, and it's going to make another set of new lows, and the longer-term trend is sideways to lower. I haven't got too much detail to say. Basically bearish. Heating oil did get to resistance, did give me a sell signal right on the highs there, and we are still short. I'm looking for lower levels, obviously, but it's stalling out here in the last few days. But I do expect new lows real soon. Next, we're almost at new lows in the natural gas. Very, very close. This chart actually looks a lot like what? Corn, wheat, long-term bear trend, came up against resistance, stopped, turned down, new lows. Yeah, these three look pretty similar, natural gas, corn, and wheat. Interesting. So, bearish. Next, unleaded gas. Longer-term picture, not quite so clear. Big, big sideways for a couple of years now. But we're in resistance right now, have been for about a month and a half. I do think it's topping out. I do think it's going to come down and probably challenge the lows here at 2.27, and maybe even drop off more than that. But this is a rather substantial historical resistance area that it seems to be coming down out of. Gold. I talked about a blow off top. We got extremely high RSIs way up here in the 93, 94 area, which is unbelievably rare. You're going to see this happen once every few years. And it almost always has ended up causing big moves down. So at a minimum, I'm looking for a move down to 2103, 2069. But it could even drop off more than that. And I do think at this point that the start of this decline has happened. Now, so far today, we have a doji inside range, and we are currently trading up a little bit, 1770. So I need to see it start to close lower, below previous lows, and start to move down more. So with the strength we have at the moment, that's obviously not happening, but we'll see. Looking for lower levels on gold. Silver. Wow. Yesterday's bearish engulfing did not work, except for, I have to point out, that we did open near the low of the day, down quite a bit. 24.33 is the opening on this candlestick. And I know you don't tell because it's not red or green for the bodies. I change everything to either yellow for overbought or oversold conditions within a short time frame, or it's red or green because it's an ER buy or sell signal, period. That does not mean that it's a standard candlestick type of situation. What'd I do? Change to the wrong damn chart here. Just a moment. I was on gold. No, silver. Sorry. Here we go. So, signal didn't work, but we could have easily made a little bit of a profit on yesterday's sell signal with our overnight because it opened significantly lower. And remember, our stops come down awfully fast, tracking prices and changing stops every minute if necessary. Frankly, every tick if necessary. So that means ER1 overnight easily could have made a little profit, but I'm not showing it to you at this point. Here we have platinum, minor new high for the rally. Between a rock and a hard spot, resistance above the market, support below. And for a long time now, since last summer, it's been bouncing back and forth and back and forth. We got a sell signal right up there against resistance. It worked great. We got a buy signal right there. It's green. We got a buy signal right there. We got a buy signal at the bottom right there. It's been doing pretty well with these signals. Not any signals lately. This buy signal right there, January 12th did not work. Nothing in the last month or two. So waiting for probably a sell signal because we're close to overbought and close to resistance. Not much else to say about platinum for the moment. How about copper? Wow, big rally today in copper, way up there. Now, I did make a minor adjustment in my resistance area. I raised the top up a little. So according to my new, slightly taller resistance levels, we are still at and in the resistance at the top of it, looking for it to turn down, getting quite overbought today in a single day. 80, 81 levels, 82 actually, maybe even 83. What was the high in this RSI? 82, 80, 82.50 something, so not quite. I think it's about to top out. Next, beans could come up some more. Did get oversold, a little below support. Now, I thought it was going to stop at this support resistance area, but it's gotten in the last few days up to it, through it, and staying above it. So I'm not ruling out a pretty decent rally at this point. I think it's possible, not particularly likely. It's going to get all the way back up to 1270. And we're a little under 12 at the moment, 1194. I'm thinking that's a stretch. The longer term picture is quite bearish looking in soybeans. Big, broad double top. Made new lows, stayed there for a whole week, but got oversold. So we're now in the midst of a rally and what I believe to be a long-term bear trend. The question is, where and when is it going to stop rallying and start heading back down? Probably to make new lows for the trend. Keep in touch. I'll try to peg that day for you. Soybean oil, overbought for a couple of days now, close to resistance. I'm expecting it to turn down at any point very soon and close to these prices. Soybean meal did get to resistance, not quite overbought, but it slipped. And right now, we've had a new low for a couple of days, not that big a deal. But between a rock and a hard spot, the trend here is a little bit more ambiguous, but I think the odds are likely to be bearish. Going to challenge support area, in my opinion, very soon again, and probably make new lows for many months relatively soon. Bearish. corn, long-term bear trend here, still looking for lower levels, except we did get a buy signal and it was at the bottom so far exactly, and that was February 26th. And we do currently have a trade on from that low day exactly, doing very well. We're long at about, give or take a penny, 422, and at 442, couple, 20 cents grand, doing fine. How much more are we going to get? I don't trust the rally. I think we're going to get some money out of this. The stop is protecting a profit, but I think we're close to a top. My thoughts are 450 to maybe 465. We'll see what happens. I just don't trust this rally. I'm looking for a turnaround to get stopped out and perpetuate the bear trend, not too far up and not too long from now. What about the corn market on a 5-minute chart? Well, that's our end point right there, close to the end of the day on February 25, the bottom day. And our trailing stop, our yellow dots. So doing fine, close to the rally highs on this 5-minute. And we do track our trades not only on daily charts, but also on any minute time frame. 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, various, whatever you like. Next, wheat. Double buy signal at the bottom. First signal didn't work. Second signal is still in progress. And I'll show you in a moment what we can do with our ER3 trigger prices and expectations. This almost made a new high this morning. Right now, it is currently trading just a little bit lower, a penny and a half. We don't have an outside day. We have had our correction, and I think today's low is going to be very important, and I'll show you in a moment. So I think we're on our way up, but we don't have a lot of potential, in my opinion. We've already tested some resistance. I hope we get through that into this major trading range resistance area so we can lock in some sort of profit. Now, here's the 1-minute chart. It picked off this morning a low, which was exactly a price of 537.00. 537 and no fractionals. Our trigger to buy was 537 and a tick. 537 and a quarter bid. And it's been in there this morning all day from yesterday afternoon and all day of the previous session as well, since the original buy signal, which gets a little complicated back here. And the original buy signal was only for this signal, the second of 2 buy signals, and the date was March 11th. There was also one on March 10th. So the March 11th generated this entry trigger for ER3, and man, we hit it exactly. Today's low is only 1 tick below our bid. We bought the low of the day, which was 537. We're in at 537 and a tick. Get closer. Huh. So doing very well. Our scalp trade is already punched out with a profit, 543 and a quarter. But our longer term trade is still in it, and we're at 546. So almost 10 cents now. Not bad so far. ER3 overnight, still in the trade. It may stay in all day and for days to come because of the ER signals that just happened. Next chart, cattle. Hey, one of our longer term trades lately. We got a signal just in time, December 15th. It got filled 3 days later, the maximum number of days after a signal to get into a ER3, which we did, fairly close to the low of the day, not quite like the previous chart I showed you in wheat, but good. it managed to stay with the trade using these input kickers, the trailing stop for the ER1 position trade, which made some money, not a lot, took it about 2 weeks. But the ER3 stop stayed flat for quite a while. It was meant to. We're using a longer term type of STS, and it's creeping up here over the last weeks and weeks. So our stop now is way up here at 180, currently trading 185.70, and a new high for the whole trend. I'm loving this one. This is great. Next, hogs. Not very many signals lately. The last sell signal did not work. Small profit or loss, looks like a small loss, and that was on February 28th. It did hit resistance, it did get overbought, and it did stop rallying. So I am expecting it to turn down some more. We did not get oversold here. So looking for lower levels in hogs. Maybe all the way back down to the significant support at 73. That'd be a pretty decent break from 84.70 down to 73-ish. Next is OJ, coming down pretty sharply today, low and last, a new low for the previous couple of days. But the situation here is a flat bottom right triangle, which is working still. Now, usually the flat bottoms are the side, or the flat side is the side that's broken. That implies this is going to get broken. The downside objective is typically measured from the highest high at the back of the pennant to the beginning of the flat. So I'm just going to eyeball this real quick. And we did get a sell signal at the very high, at the beginning of the wedge or triangle, and at the historic high, and at the previous major high, which was the first shoulder of the shoulder, the head, and the shoulder top, neckline, downside objective, boom, got there, game over. Big rally, and again, another sell signal just recently, February 8th. So I'm bearish, and the downside objective on the pattern, and we're still short from the sells. Well, we're not. We got a profit out of that. We still have no new highs since that sell signal, and the pattern says down to probably about, I'm going to say a little below 300. Next chart. Double top in cocoa, blow off top commentary, extreme overbought conditions, double and triple divergences. We have a minor new low today for the previous 4 days, but it's not necessarily staying there at the moment. I really need to see this market get down there, stay down there, close down there, and go down for another day or two more before I get very excited about a major top here. I think it's possible. And coffee jumped up yesterday into the resistance, stopped at the top where it has stopped before, and now we're back down to yesterday's low and starting to see if we can make lower lows. Large pennant formation. These formations do usually break out in the same trend direction that they had before the pennant formed, which was up. But I don't know. This resistance area is pretty strong, and I have to wait a little bit to see if this is going to break out below the pennant or above the resistance. I'm saving comment. Going back to our sugar, oversold, bouncing a little, expecting it to stop at resistance, got real close lately. Don't have any faith in the rallies. Neutral to bearish at the moment. Lastly, cotton the rag, spike top. Now pay attention. Bearish engulfing on this date, February 16. Made a little money. Great. 1 day later, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Overbought again. We have a high. And this is important. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 again. Now, head and shoulder top formations are symmetrical frequently. The distance from the highest high to the left for the first shoulder is frequently very close to the same amount of time from the highest high to the right-hand shoulder. This was 7. That's 7 days in this case. It could have been 7 hours. It could have been 7 weeks, etc. But the time frame is frequently very similar from the first shoulder to the head, and then from the head to the next and last shoulder high. Today we had a spike up. It was kind of high, but not too high. The neckline slants up pretty good, so the height of the shoulders could slant up also, which it has. Ladies and gentlemen, we're low and last, and very close to yesterday's low. And we could have a bearish engulfing if it would just get below yesterday's lows. And that would look a lot like today's, the last shoulder high. And it's not very far from the neckline, which I've already drawn. Now, one minor problem, if we do have a head and shoulder top, and today's the last shoulder high, and we're about to break the neckline and start heading south, we have a fairly good support area just below the neckline. So how is it going to handle that? Breakouts on patterns in general are usually pretty sharp and fast and big on heavy volume, that kind of thing. So if the pattern's good, we might just drop quickly to the bottom of the support at 90.86 and then bounce back some for a short day or 2 or 3, then new lows for the trend completely down below the support area and heading south. I will very quickly draw in for you the downside objective, which is measured from the highest high to the neckline on the same day. And then you take that measurement and you go from the neckline, down to the measurement level, and it's 82.14 if we break out today. But if you don't break out today, then you're supposed to take, I duplicated this by accident. You're supposed to take this and slide it up slightly higher every day, because you're supposed to measure from the breakout when we don't know when that's going to happen. It should happen in the next couple of days, so I'm going to move it over here to tomorrow. It really doesn't change much. So this is 82.34 instead of 82.15 or whatever I said. It just comes up very slightly, and for the next few days. Watch this one. This could be great. End of our charts. Going back to the E-mini, we're still doodling around unchanged, and we still have a very small range for the day in most of our charts. Here is the 1 minute, 15-minute spider. And we're currently bouncing very slightly off very recent, within the last hour or so, lowest lows for the day. Is something bearish starting today? I definitely cannot rule that out, but it just won't do the job. I'm not convinced of that. I'm waiting for something more definitive, but I'm expecting weakness. You have a great day. Profitable trading for you. Sorry this one's so long. Hasta luego.